Yeah, good morning, everyone. So, on this offset, I thank the organizers and congratulate the organizers to bring all the teachers and endoscopic enthusiasts to the forum, and we learn and share a lot of things today by our teachers. So, my small effort, the talk is about endoscopic foraminoplasty in elderly, so avoiding fusion. So these are the few pioneers. We should not forget their sacrifices and their thought process. They've done a lot of work in this understanding the foraminal anatomy, foramen stenosis, and pathophysiology around the foramen. So when you say elderly spine, so we have a different set of problems when compared to a younger spine. So the disc is aging, facet joint is aging, bone changes, the ligament and muscles also get degenerated. So what are the challenges we face in these patients if this elderly patient has to go for surgery? So by United Nations definition, the elderly patient, the age is around 65. So when we say elderly or aged patient or old age patient, we are referring here 65-year plus patient. Going for a spine surgery is a big headache and big challenge. So what are the challenges? Most of the patients will have comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, and other associated renal and lung comorbidities. So operating on such patients is a very risky, and any long surgical procedure on these patients is a challenge. Adding to that, patients are osteoporotic most of the time. Any implants in these patients again is a challenge. Giving the understanding the comorbidities, general anesthesia is always a nightmare in these patients, and surgical complication intra-op and post-op like blood transfusion intra-op, big scars, uh, causing having an implantation problem drop, and post-operatively the wound healing and the implant failure is a big challenge in these older patients. So when we are dealing with such patients where patient has a foramen and lateral recess stenosis, as Dr. Anand Kavi, the previous speaker, emphasized in detail about the concept of foramen stenosis and endoscopic surgery in these patients. When we are dealing with such patients where patient has a collapsed disc with a completely narrowed foramen impinging the exiting root, with the pathology around the foramen in the form of osteophytes in the facet or in the end plate, hypertrophied ligament, whether it is kinking or hypertrophied, and the superior articular facet impinging the exiting root. All things causing narrowing the foramen and also same time the lateral recess. If you address such patients surgically, so what options we have? So when you see it the closely already, Anand Kavi has emphasized few points. When you see the foramen here, we call it as a foramen trap. So whenever a nerve is coming, exiting from this foramen, so pathology around the facet, that is superior articular facet on the tip, a spur, degenerated facet can give rise to a spur. The soft tissue there, especially the apical part of the yellow ligament can get calcified or hypertrophied, or it can become a kink. A redundant disc, a collapsed disc space with a redundant disc can cause the narrowing. Scarring of the vessels. So we see when you do endoscopic surgery, around the foramen there are so many ligaments, soft tissue, and the blood vessels there. As age advances, so these structures get stiffened or sometimes due to recurrent inflammation, giving rise to a tough band of tissue around the exiting nerve. And the osteophytes, shoulder osteophytes, especially the upper end plate, osteophyte can directly cause the foramen narrowing. So how do we address such foramen trap when a patient is prepared for surgery? So what options we have? So whenever we want to address such pathology, we need to remove a lot of bone. So ending up in losing a facet, either partially or fully, causing that area unstable. So whenever we are dealing with such patients in an open surgery or minimal invasive surgery, so we have to fuse the area to avoid further instability. So the other option is endoscopy, where you address only the pathology rather than doing a further collateral damage, addressing the pathology which is in few millimeters around the foramen, removing the spur, removing the soft tissue around the foramen, making the volume of the foramen bigger, will address the issue in most of the patient in elderly population, where there is already a settled disease, burnt out disease leading to degenerative scoliosis or degenerative kyphosis, causing a stiff spine, where the spine is immobile most of the times. So addressing only the foramen is most of the time sufficient. So how do we address endoscopically in such patients avoiding fusion? So whenever there is a central stenosis, there is no debate that most of the central stenosis is addressed by interlaminar, though there are few experts where sometimes we have a special situations we have to address through transforaminal. Lateral recess, again, there is a depends upon the stalwarts or the surgeon who is expert at whether he is expert in the transforaminal route or interlaminar route. So you can choose whether going transforaminally or interlaminar approach. But when we are dealing with foramen and extraforaminal stenosis, there is no debate that the best approach would be transforaminal approach for a stenosis. So just to understand the terms here, the foraminoplasty versus foraminotomy. Foraminotomy is a term used where we just drill the part of the superior articular facet or the ventral part of the facet to visualize the structures there. So make our vision better because it acts as a curtain. It conceals the traversing route and the pathology. So we are just for our visual comfort, we are doing or we are removing that bone, and working comfort, we are removing the bone. It does not form a part of our therapeutic procedure. So in that situation, we call the term, better to coin the term foraminotomy. When we say foraminoplasty, the surgery we are intending to do is itself, we are want to increase the volume of the foramen. So it's a therapeutic procedure where doing so, we are increasing the volume of the foramen and causing relief or pain relief to the patient. So what are the advantages of this foraminoplasty to avoid fusion? Is most of the time when we do transforaminal, we operate under local anesthesia, and I do it in epidural analgesia, where analgesic dose of epidural are given with the catheter in situ, and we can do surgery. So when the surgery takes longer time, patient become more uncomfortable in local anesthesia, or we are around the ganglion operating, so they might have more pain. So epidural analgesia, the comfort level of the patient is more, and they can tolerate the procedure very well. And the morbidity, as I said, there is no open scars here, so we can avoid big incisions, avoiding the blood transfusions and the scar related or incision related issues, where operatively such denervation of the muscle leading to a lot of postoperative muscle pain. And here, because we are giving either the local or epidural, there is no anesthetic morbidity here. And the short stay itself acts, the patient accepts the procedure because it's a short stay. He comes in the morning, goes in the evening or in the next day morning, and we can stage the procedure. Most of the elderly patients have multiple level problems. So when a patient has L2 to L5 problem, so we can stage it 2 levels at a time or 1 level at a time with our different stages, so that patient acceptance is better. We can stage the surgeries every 2 months or every 3 months, so that patient thinks that it's kind of a small dental procedure where he comes to the clinic, gets operated, goes home and comes after a month or two, gets the other level done. So the acceptance of this old patient is more. And we are not using implant. The implant related complications are less, or the adjacent level disease complications of implants are less. And definitely cost benefit, because the stay is less. So overall, when you see, the cost benefit is very less. And in elderly, the biggest advantage is the amount of analgesia or the opioids used post-op comes down drastically, leading to opioid or analgesic related complications. It brings down drastically in such patients. So what we intend to do in a foraminoplasty is we try to shave off or drill the ventral part of the superior articular facet. Also, it's called as non-articular part of the facet, which which is the prime concern in foraminal stenosis. Also, we can remove the disc, redundant disc there, or any disc prolapse or disc, remove the yellow ligament. So when you see at this image, so when you see in a foramen, that's a Kempin triangle, when we see what all the concepts or what all the structures we need to address in a foraminal stenosis or a foraminoplasty patient is the important is the ventral part of the facet, that is the non-articular, which is colored blue. So this hypertrophies, it impinges the foramen, it covers most of the part of the foramen that we need to remove. The second thing is the osteophytes on the end plates. These are the two things which impinge the traversing route or the exiting route. So these things need to be addressed. Next is the soft tissue around this foramen. As I said before, the yellow ligament or the soft tissue which has scarred or become more tight like a band need to be addressed. So these are all the tissues which need to be addressed when you're looking at a foraminoplasty. So when we look at a MRI, you note down what all the components are causing more problems, and you address it specifically one by one during surgery. Just going through the literature, there's a lot of literature in the pioneers have done, followed up and given the results. So it is a good, acceptable procedure worldwide now. So we have a lot of data regarding this foraminoplasty and its outcomes in elderly. So now the easy, and if you understand the 3D anatomy around the foramen, it is one of the safest and best procedure for any elderly patient. So what are the indications when we want to do a foraminoplasty in elderly patient? Most of the time it is a stenosis leading to because of the end point of the degeneration leading to subarticular stenosis or either osteophytes, the decreased height is all leading to stenosis. The tools commonly used are shavers. We have a lot of mechanized tools nowadays. You can use the drills or manual shavers. And the articular work helps here because we are using a 30-degree or a 25-degree angled scope. So always articular bulb helps here so that we tend to remove less bone when we use the articular instruments. So various dimensions of scopes we use nowadays, and laser is a very good tool addressing the apical soft tissue, that is the yellow ligament, which is spanning from tip of a superior articular process to the pedicle. So to remove such ligament, most of the time it's a challenge. So here laser works very well. So just to go through some scenarios. So it's an elderly patient having a lateral recess stenosis. So what are the components causing stenosis here? It's a hard disc prolapse and a ligament which is hypertrophied around the facet joint, forming a spur there. So you can just go through the video. So we are operating here. Once we remove you can see the tissue is very firm here. Once we remove the tissue in elderly patient, most of the time disc is not very soft, so it is very hard or firm, yellowish, more yellowish. So we need to use a little bit bigger instruments to catch hold of such hard and firm instruments. So once we remove the hard disc fragment there, so you can see the thecal sac and the edges of the end plates there. So you can see the thecal sac now pulsating the root. So once this is done, then we need to address them. So you can see these are the tissues around the foramen, in the foraminal area. The edge of the annulus fibers, some PLL fibers. And 12 o'clock, you can see the overhanging yellowish tissue. Just cutting the, this is a yellowish overhanging hypertrophic tissue and the facet. So I'm just trying to use a articular burr to drill the facet to give more room. You can see now, normally the yellow ligament is not that thick. In this patient, as you saw in MRI, it's all hypertrophic. So I'm using a angled instrument to remove this yellow ligament. So most of this time, clearing the soft tissue is a key. And when you see here, now I'm just trying to dissect this yellow ligament in the lateral recess medial to the facet. I'm using the angled instrument to cut this ligament, expose the lateral part of the traversing root. So I'm just trying to remove the entire ligament towards the apex. So where the area of traversing and exiting root will be there. So you can clearly demarcate that area. So having the right tools is very important when you are doing this complex surgeries. Without having a good tools, the radio frequency ablator and the mechanized tools and the instruments, it is very difficult to give a good results. So now I'm addressing, this is just below the exiting root where any osteophyte is there. I'll just try to remove it. You can see now the entire traversing root is free and you can see the fat there. So 3 o'clock is the superior. So you can see the exiting root fat there, that's the exiting root fat, and the whole of the traversing root and the exiting root area is made free now. So this, you see here, that's a traversing root, that's the exiting root area. There is no osteophyte beneath and the yellow ligament has completely been removed. So we have done a very good foramen clearance here. You can see the post-op image, removed the disc, completely cleared the lateral recess and the foramen. So you can see the lateral recess is completely opened up and foramen is nicely opened. This is a 88-year-old lady. She came with isolated radiculopathy. You can see here foramen stenosis is there, and on MRI you can see a facet spur which is there, which is also calcified there, and this spur was impinging the foramen. You can see there is it is just impinging the foramen. So all you need to remove that 3 to 4 mm of spur to relieve pain. So if you do a open surgery in such patients, we tend to remove the facet joint to clear that area. So here when we practice endoscopy, there is no need to remove that facet. So we can just remove that soft tissue and clear the bone. So I am just drilling the ventral part of the facet a little bit and trying to burr the osteophyte. So once it is done, once the drilling is done, you can see the soft tissue I'm removing with the articulating instrument. So I'm just trying to remove the soft tissue around the traversing and the exiting root area, which is a cause of concern. You can see there's the exiting root and you can see that I'm trying to remove that hardened tissue there. Once that is removed, you can see now. So exiting root is nicely seen and I'm just removing that soft tissue there, just superior to the exiting root, so that the root from the pedicle is completely freed. You can use a side firing laser, the homing laser here, to just further remove that soft tissue, because it is very difficult to remove with the instrument there. So you can use the laser to completely ablate the soft tissue to avoid fibrosis in post-op, again leading to recurrent foraminal stenosis. So you can use lasers, very helpful. So you can see the post-op here, the foramen spur is removed. The foramen spur is removed and the patient is completely relieved post-op. So the third scenario you can see, it's a recurrent disc prolapse. Years back microdiscectomy was done on this patient, but he has come with a recurrence. So here I used the one more technique where you don't have a mechanized tools. So you can use a simple handheld refines to just do a foraminotomy and remove this foraminoplasty to remove this fragment. And this lady is a 85-year lady. The interesting case where she has a central canal stenosis and foraminal stenosis bilaterally. She has severe claudication symptoms and L4 symptoms also. She was not a candidate for general anesthesia, so she was suffering a lot past so many years. So she was operated under local anesthesia because even she was not fit for epidural analgesia. So bilateral foraminoplasty was done in this patient and try to reach as much medial as possible. So clearing the central canal also. So this is a post-op where you can see the thecal sac and the exiting route and the traversing route. So nicely decompressed. And this is a post-op. You can see foramen has been completely opened up and as far as medially. And other scenario where you see isolated foramen stenosis, where the disc collapse lead to impinging of the superior articular facet, just boring deeply into the foramen, causing foramen stenosis and leading to radicular symptoms isolated without any back pain in elderly patients. So such patients again, you can just drill the foramen area and relieve the pressure. So just relieving some disc fragments, you can see this is the junction of the annular fibers, the facet and the PLL and the yellow ligament. So everything coincides there. So we need to clear that area and drill the facet going towards the apex. So just can see here the post-op tip of SAP has been removed, the ligament kinking has been removed, and you can see nicely foramen has been opened up. And when you do CT scan, you can see the facet joint is well preserved, and we have opened up the nice foramen here and completely relieving the radicular symptoms without addressing, without touching any part of his spinal elements. So you can see completely opened up foramen without damaging any facet joint. Patient is elderly patient. Patient is absolutely happy, and you can see many such patients we see in future as we have a growing elderly population number all over the world. So you can see here there's a collapse. This patient presented with severe radiculopathy, no back pain at all. So there is a collapsed disc, degenerated collapsed disc with a severe stenosis and lateral stenosis. So you can see here there is foraminal extraforaminal stenosis with severe lateral recess stenosis also. So you can just see here such patients, just understand the 3D anatomy, what all structures has to be removed. The 3 o'clock is the head end of the patient. So we are seeing the traversing route there. So I'm just landing in the foramen. I'm trying to remove the ligament lateral to the thecal sac, lateral to the traversing route. So you can see the traversing route there. So I'm just trying to remove the yellow ligament. So I'm just cutting the yellow ligament. So nicely, you can see the lateral edge of the root also nicely. So we have decompressed all the 3 sides of the traversing root. You can see here further, I'm just removing the part of the ligament. So now the root is completely decompressed. You can see a good osteophyte here at 5 o'clock position. So now we need to address the exiting root here and the foraminal part. I am cutting the osteophyte, which is impinging the exiting root. You can see I am trying to flattening it and removing all the soft tissue below the exiting root using the reamers and just using some punches to just flatten this one. So now you can see nice fat between the traversing and exiting root. I removed all the soft tissue. You can see now The exiting root is completely free. For nice fat is seen. Traversing root is seen. So that's a part of some soft tissue in the apex near the pedicular area. You can see here nicely the traversing root is seen nicely. The exiting root is seen nicely. The osteophyte has been flattened up. With a good understanding of the 3D anatomy, we can easily address the foramen without causing any damage, and under local anesthesia, epidural analgesia, we can avoid big spine surgeries, avoiding fusion. If you select patient correctly, having predominant radicular symptoms with no back pain, so we can do very well and avoid so many open surgery morbidities in such elderly patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sukumar. A very informative talk on the role of foraminoplasty in the management of elderly osteoporotic multi-level significantly obstructed individuals. Fantastic demonstration of your skills also, and validation through pre and post-op MRIs. So really appreciate your talk, sir. I will now request Dr. Hosni Heba